snowing. Still snowing. Well, another adventure. I'm driving up to Haliburton, just south of Algonquin Park, to participate in something that's called Fur and Flintlock. It's run by Yours Outdoors, and it's a tourism thing up here. And I know Barry, I do some winter workshops for him up here as well. So he just said, hey, you might want to check this out. And I do. I want to check it out. I just didn't think it was going to snow this much. It just said a few flurries. I can't even see the road. Okay. It'd be nice to be in the woods though, not the road. I don't like being on the road. I'd rather be in the woods during a snowstorm. Just saying. Okay, the adventure's beginning. Barry?
Yes.
What's this all about?
This is called Fur and Flintlock, and it's a step back into Canada's history, and we are learning about the fur trade and the way of life back in the 18th century.
That's fantastic. This guy's dressed up for something. Who are you, sir?
I am Alistair McGregor, and I'm a clerk with the fur trade. I've been a part of this because I am the person who keeps track of all the trade goods and the transactions of the business. Mike is the trader.
This is going to be cool.
At least 3 old beaver houses. So they've used that. There's another beaver house you can't see right now against the rock over there. So they've been here for a long time.
The question is, why does Mike do this presentation, and what is its value? And to me, Mike Buss is such a modest man that he won't necessarily tell you the whole story or even the best part of it. But I share with Mike a lifelong passion and interest in the fur trade, and particularly in Canadian history. And I've always maintained that to truly understand the origins of the country of Canada, you really have to understand the fur trade. And you have to understand that from a historical perspective, but also from a geographical perspective, given the nature of the Canadian Shield and the water tables and the drainage patterns and the forest and the interaction of the native populations, etc. So the culmination of the fur trade being this European influence happening in North America, essentially in the northern part in Canada, and having, being driven by a commodity, an expensive commodity in Europe, is really fascinating. And so I think that Mike represents one of the best resources in Canada of a person who really understands that interaction, both from the standpoint of the wildlife itself, the beaver and the trapping history and the reason for why this happened, but also an understanding of the natives and an understanding of the of how, what a profound impact it had on the development of Canada. So that's my answer for why would we have a presentation like this, and why is Mike passionate about this? Because to me, there's a very, very important knowledge transfer that has to take place here, which I think it's a great peril that Canadians don't really understand that, or don't really dig into it, or just sort of blithely are unaware of it. It's a part of us. It's sewn into the very soul of the country of Canada.
Mike,
Hey.
I got another question, sorry. So is it true that if a beaver doesn't continue to chew, it will its teeth will go into its brain?
Well, yeah, they continually grow, but there's no reason for them not to chew, because they have to cut these trees down. That's happened, or people have found beaver that way, but it's an anomaly. But if they somehow broke their jaw, or the jaw got misaligned so that the teeth didn't rub together, one will keep growing and it can grow back into the skull.
They're very territorial. Do they kick out their young after a while?
They don't kick them out. Their young will leave usually the second year, the second spring. But they are territorial. Like these beaver that are in here would not tolerate another family on this creek. There are beaver above here, across the highway, and in the lake there, and then in the streams coming in there. But there won't be one family on this. Usually figure like maybe 2 kilometers either side of where they're living. They won't tolerate another family, and they will fight them and chase them away. So they are territorial in that extent. Yeah, I think there was a good story to be told, and there's so many misconceptions about what went on or what goes on. Like, we don't even touch on modern, you know, trapping activity. We're just talking about the periods from about 1750 to 1810 or something like that. So we're talking about it when it was at its hiatus historically, but it's been way higher than that in terms of production since then in modern times. Today, there's lots of history known or taught, but there's very little of it it's like if there isn't a hyperbole involved, it doesn't get told, you know, and the stories magnify over time, and one little incident will become something that represents the whole industry, which does it a disservice. If you think about all the other activities that we've perpetrated on the land, trapping has had about the least impact of anything. And also, trappers don't want to change the land. They want it to stay the way it is. You know, they don't want to see a condominium development on this creek or something like that. I find trappers, active trappers today and native trappers for sure, were really smart about animal behavior. Because they had to know what kind of habitat to go in, they had to understand travel patterns for wildlife, they had to understand food sources, they had to understand what would attract them, and all this knowledge, well, it's being taught now, but not what it was when the fur industry was really going. And people that are trapping nowadays are doing it because they like the lifestyle, and it's not a paying proposition.
There it is. You just poked its head out of the ice over there.
Oh yeah?
But I couldn't get a good enough look to see what it was. But
Well, it might have been a beaver, could have been a mink, they'll hang around there too.
It was a pretty big ripple.
Yeah, probably a beaver. They know we're here. Usually they tunnel up under in the earth, but here he's got to be just going into a crevice in the rock because there's not enough earth along that side to dig in.
So the only reason why they build a lodge is because the further north there's less soil, more rock, so they have to build their own den?
No.
No?
In the north, there's huge areas of aspen mixed forest where it's all sand and gravel too. It's not the availability, it's whether the site is protective enough for them.
And they go dormant. They don't hibernate. They go dormant in the winter, right?
No.
They, not at all?
No. They're totally active all winter, but under the ice.
Well, just like us, they probably sleep more in the winter?
I don't know. I never lived with them, but I don't think so. I think because they got to eat. They're still eating, and then in a couple of months the females will be pregnant, and they have to have food and stuff so that they can grow a fetus or 2 or 3. So no, they're totally active. We just don't see it in the wintertime. Except, like I say, if we got a thaw in January or something and it really thawed out, they would break out of the ice and come up here to look for some fresh food because that stuff gets kind of stale. And that's another way you can attract the beaver to a trap is by putting fresh cut poplar wrapped in this, put the trap underwater. That's another kind of set. Probably not one that natives use. Natives would actually dig into a house and scare the beaver out and catch them in nets. It was one of the ways they did it because they didn't have traps, or not very many traps anyway. Are we good?
We're good.
We're good.
This is Mike's property, and we're going off to a pioneer cabin, talking about the history of the place. Right now he's talking about the beaver and how trapping is still going on here and how it always has gone on and how he's taking care of his property and his beaver. Kind of cool.
Fire buzzed up.
I guess so.
Good. It should be nice in there.
So neat connecting the streams.
You think this is what the pioneers did?
I think they did that or they'd be hit with the broom, one or the other.
Are you having fun today?
I am having a blast.
Yeah?
This is awesome. It's fantastic. Do you want me to do your boots?
Oh, sure, sure. Oh, thank you.
Nobody's catching.
There's the second floor here too when you get in there. Check it out.
You just put half in that one. Was that mine or?
For the body seat.
Butter your
I just love the way there's like
Birds. There's different sizes.
stunning.
love it.
It's stunning.
I love it.
This was what drove the fur trade, basically, was felting. And Europe had so decimated their beaver populations when the first French people came and found all this wonderful fur in North America. That's what started. Early on in the fur trade, like in the 1600s and so forth, the traders wanted pelts that the natives had actually wore. So they wore them with the fur inside in the wintertime to keep warm. But by wearing it, their body grease and stuff would get on it and the guard hairs would break off. Because the process of separating these two hairs, if you just shaved it off, was pretty onerous. In fact, at one time, the Russians knew how to do this and most of this fur got shipped to Russia before it ever entered the felting trade. And you put a little of that on this pan, this side right here. You get it to come out. How much have I got there? I don't have my bifocals off.
That's it. They say that often. How much do I have?
Cartoons,
Just
right?
watch this.
Okay, so when this flashes, since that's all it's gonna do, what's happening is that steel, this cover that I put down, is being hit by this flint, and it's not making a spark like the sparks you saw me making when I was trying to light that charcoal. They're not really sparks, they're pieces of metal that went incandescent, they went white hot because the stone is harder than the steel. So it's scraping off little shavings of steel that incandesce and go white hot. When they hit that powder, they set it off. Yeah, they were sort of inefficient, but the natives got used to dealing with them, and it was a lot simpler. They had a lot better range than a bow and arrow. But a lot of them still carried bows and arrows even though they had guns because these were expensive to shoot. And an arrow, I can make another one quite easily, or I might have dozens of them, but I only have a limited quantity of powder. And then if you're fighting with somebody, another tribe or white people or whoever it is, this was a lot more intimidating than a bow and arrow was. So they were sought after item. Make sure this is closed because I don't want that spark to fall on that and set that all off. Okay, we pour that down the barrel. And I always kind of give it a wrap like this just to make sure it gets to the bottom. And these trade guns were smooth bores. They're like a shotgun. There's no rifling in them. Rifle was known and rifling was known and it was used in the period, but the native didn't want a rifle necessarily because you're a lot more likely to see a duck or a grouse or a snowshoe hare. You got a lot better chance of killing it with a shot, like a shotgun, a bunch of pellets, than you do with one ball. So what they would often do is carry them loaded with shot, and if they came across a caribou or something that was close, they'd just drop a ball in on top of it quickly and then shoot it. But they probably wouldn't carry it loaded with a ball. Now I'm going to use some wadding here. This is wasp nest. You could use anything that was dry. Wasp nest is as close to paper as you can get in the period. And I'm going to pack it down really good because I want to make a lot of bang.
1, 2, 3. Flash in the band.
What seems to be going on right now?
Well, it's not going off.
We thought we hired professionals in this. They can't even get the gun to go. We'd be dead as pioneers, I swear to God.
The bear's knocking at the door. That's the best you can do is smoke.
What'd you say?
Say it again.
Rewind.
I said hunting with a flintlock is actually a very rewarding process because it requires a lot more patience, a lot more technique. Hunting with a high-powered rifle and a scope, really it doesn't have very significant balance, whereas hunting with this in the forest is a very different, intimate process.
1, 2, 3. Oh, didn't even get a spark that time.
Barry, what kind of business is this? We want to bang.
We always get a bang out of it.
We do.
1, 2, 3.
Whoa! That one worked.
So what he did there is the touch hole from the pan, the fire, once the shards of metal ignite the pan, it opens the pan, and that's that flash, and there's a tiny little touch hole that goes in and lights off the charge of powder that's in the muzzle itself, in the chamber. And so that's that slight delay, because the hammer comes down, hits the frizzen opens, the spark drops into the pan ignites, the fire goes in the touch hole, and boom, it goes off inside the
Milliseconds.
milliseconds. Just it's part of the fun of it.
And I haven't fired it for quite a while, so because I keep it oiled. If it gets oily in the bottom, then the fire can't get through. So it finally burned it out. So the next do it again, it should go off much quicker. 1, 2, 3. So that wasn't much delay in that one. I mean, after the first flash or misfire, it's pretty quick if everything's dry and clean and there's no plugs in it. It's pretty foolproof, but there's a little bit of chance involved too.
If I was a rabbit and you missed me, I'd still die of a heart attack.
Could be.
Barry, I stand corrected. We got a bang.
Bang
Okay.
for your buck.
I'm coming back. Coming back. I'll tell people about this now. Yeah.
Going on half cocked there.
Yeah. It's probably at Tim Hortons this morning. These guys were sitting down. Well, let's make the first two not go.
It's possible.
We'll keep them on the edge of their seats.
Well, we're leaving the cabin. We're heading back before it gets dark. And what a wealth of information we got there. Great knowledge about the fur trade. And we got to see a musket get shot. It's great. So yeah, this is a great event. There's a whole bunch of events up in Haliburton. You probably know a lot about them. Hike Haliburton in the fall and even have a winter one. There's also these day events you can do through Yours Outdoors, Barry. And he's been doing this for a long time. So this is one he organizes, and top notch, absolutely. Had a blast. Whoa! Nobody saw that. Nobody saw that. I'm trying to look like a professional. It's not happening. It's the third time I failed today. All right, what was that word you taught us this morning?
Oh, yes.
Oh, the word. The word was jank. So as we were driving today, sometimes it would be like hard snow, and then it would be slush, and then when you'd hit the slush, your tires would shift, and like that's jank. So like when your tires are like shifting, that is janky. So there's jank and there's janky. It comes from like mountain biking and primarily in like dry conditions. So if you're like cycling and you hit a hard corner, your front tire might skip in the loose gravel or in the dry conditions. And like I would refer to that as jank.
Okay, we spent the entire day listening about the history of the fur trade, and the only thing that these guys will remember is Jake.
No.
It's a great group. A lot of fun today with these guys. Amazing.
Yes, that's great phrasing. Yes, jank free is also, I would say that too. Okay. Yeah, like we're gonna ride and we'll be changing.
I'm just thankful I'm not camping out with these guys. Just saying.